So, when you're designing a LiFePO4 battery system, what are the first things you think about? Probably amp hours, voltage, maybe inverter size. But what if I told you there's another variable? One that often gets pushed to the side that can literally make or break your entire system. That variable is temperature. Seriously, understanding temperature is what separates a truly bomb-proof, reliable power system from one that only works when the weather is absolutely perfect.
Just let that sink in for a second. A seasonal system. One that performs like a champ in the mild spring weather, but could totally leave you in the dark in the dead of winter or during a summer heat wave. And that right there, that's the core idea we're going to unpack. We're moving beyond the simple math and starting to design for the real world. So, what does it really mean to move beyond the basic rules? Well, it means we need to get a handle on the actual chemistry happening inside that battery box, not just blindly follow tips we heard somewhere. This comparison really nails it, doesn't it? On one side, you have what we hear, don't charge below freezing. But the reality? That's not just a friendly suggestion, it's a hard chemical speed limit. We're told, oh, the BMS will protect you, but a lot of us treat the battery management system like it's cruise control when it's really an emergency brake. And here's the biggest one. We think our battery's capacity is this fixed, static number. The truth? The actual usable energy you can get from your battery is constantly changing with the thermometer. All right, let's dive into the first big problem, heat. It doesn't matter if that heat is coming from the summer sun or from your system working hard. Heat isn't just uncomfortable for your battery, it's a serious performance killer.
Now, to get why heat is such a problem, we've got to talk about something called internal resistance. Every single battery has it. The easiest way to think about it is like friction. The second you ask your battery to do any work at all, charging or discharging, this internal resistance kicks in and starts generating heat. It's just baked into the physics of how batteries work.
And this little equation right here governs the whole process. That P loss, which is power lost as heat, equals I squared R. I is the current, and R is that internal resistance we just talked about. So you can't have current without generating heat. But look really, really closely at that little squared symbol on the I. This is the part that trips a lot of people up. The relationship between the current you draw and the heat you generate isn't one-to-one, it's exponential. So if you double the load on your system, say you fire up a big air conditioner, you don't just get double the heat inside your battery, you get 4 times the heat. This is precisely why big, heavy loads can cook a battery bank so fast. And this is where things can get really scary. You've got a high current, and it's generating a bunch of heat. That heat makes the battery's temperature go up. But as the temperature climbs, the internal resistance can also start to climb. And what happens when resistance goes up? You generate even more heat for the exact same amount of current. You see where this is going? It's a vicious cycle, a dangerous feedback loop that can rapidly age your battery or, in a worst-case scenario, lead to thermal runaway. So, the consequences? Oh, they are very real. Running your batteries consistently above 45 degrees Celsius, that's about 113 Fahrenheit, is going to dramatically shorten their lifespan. But it also has an effect right now, in the moment. As that internal resistance climbs because of the heat, your battery's voltage can start to sag under a heavy load, and that sag can be enough to make your inverter suddenly cut out, right when you need that power the most.
Okay, so we've talked about heat being a slow killer that degrades your battery. Now let's go to the other end of the thermometer, because cold presents a totally different kind of threat. It's a much more immediate and permanent danger. This is maybe the single most important rule to remember about cold weather and LiFePO4 batteries. When you try to charge them below freezing, that's 0 Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit, you're not just dealing with lower efficiency. You are actively, physically, and irreversibly damaging the cells inside. So what is actually happening? Let's get into the chemistry just a little bit. When a battery charges normally, tiny lithium ions cruise through the electrolyte and neatly park themselves inside the anode. It's a process called intercalation. But when it gets too cold, those ions get sluggish. They slow way down. They can't move fast enough to park properly. So instead, they just crash. They smash into the surface of the anode and deposit there as pure metallic lithium. This is what we call lithium plating. And this is why it is such a massive deal. Once that lithium metal has plated onto the anode, it's never coming off. It's there forever. It permanently robs your battery of capacity, but even worse, it creates a huge safety hazard. You're essentially building up a potential short circuit inside the cell that's just waiting to cause problems down the road. So we've got our two big enemies: heat, which slowly degrades and chokes performance, and cold, which causes instant, permanent damage. So, how does this all connect back to the one number you probably care about the most? How much energy can I actually use?
We're all familiar with the grade school formula, right? Energy equals voltage times amp hours. But the real-world equation? It has a secret ingredient. It's this little guy right here, ETT, the temperature efficiency factor. And trust me, this changes everything.
This factor, this eta of T, is so important because it recognizes that your battery's efficiency is not some fixed number. It's a dynamic variable that goes up and down, and it's tied directly to temperature. This is the magic number that translates the capacity printed on the side of your battery into the actual real-world energy you can get out of it on any given day. And this table just lays it all out, plain and simple. In that optimal zone, that Goldilocks area around room temperature, your internal resistance is low and your efficiency factor is high. You're getting pretty much all the energy you paid for. But as soon as it gets cold, that resistance skyrockets and your efficiency just falls off a cliff. And when it gets too hot, resistance starts to climb again, and your BMS might even start throttling power to protect the cells, which again means your usable energy drops. So, if you remember one thing from this section, let it be this: the number printed on your battery's label is its theoretical capacity. Your actual usable capacity on any given day is a moving target, and it's being controlled entirely by temperature. Okay, we've laid out the problems, we understand heat, we understand cold. So now let's shift our thinking. It's time to stop acting like just a battery user and start thinking like a system engineer, someone who designs for these thermal challenges right from the get-go. Here's your design checklist. These are the absolute non-negotiables. First, that sealed battery box you have, it's an oven. It can easily get 10, 15, even 25 degrees Celsius hotter inside that box than the air outside. That's a huge deal. Second, never forget that your inverter is the #1 source of internal heat generation. For cold weather, you must have an active plan. Think heating pads, think automatic shutdowns. Don't just cross your fingers and hope the BMS saves you. And finally, always remember what the BMS is for. It's the emergency brake, not the cruise control. Design your system to operate comfortably within its limits every day. And this right here, this is the goal. This is the fundamental shift in thinking we need to make. You're not just buying 200 amp hours. You are buying a system that needs to deliver a specific amount of energy, reliably, through scorching heat and freezing cold. So I'll leave you with this question. After everything we've just gone over, I want you to take a good, hard look at your own setup. Is it a robust, all-weather power plant that's ready for anything? Or is it a seasonal system just waiting for that perfect 70-degree day to actually give you the power it promised? The answer to that question all comes down to how well you've designed for temperature.